any questions regarding any of those before we move on beyond the consent agenda? If not, we'll approve the consent agenda without objection. A routine business, we have the approval of the claims. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion in regard to such. Okay. Any discussion or questions on any of the claims from any of the commissioners? Staff have any clarifications or anything they want to make on any of the items on the claims? If not, please call the roll.
Wyseth?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Falcon?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item B would be department head reports, and I guess, Dick, we probably, last week, I think you were towards the end, so we'll invite you forward first and hear a report from our highway department.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'll also have something later on the agenda, so I'll just briefly go over the stuff here.
Okay.
One thing that we've been working on and just kind of came up with a figure recently was on our salt sand mix that we provide for the smaller communities around Brookings County. The price hadn't been adjusted for quite a few years. I believe it was 1999 or 95. And so when we put together what it was costing us at today's prices, currently we charge these other entities $16.80 a ton, and we would like to raise that up to $25.07 a ton. And basically that just gets our cost recouped from us buying the salt, mixing it, and buying the sand. And so it's just food for thought. If it's needs a formal action or whether that's something I can just bill them for. Would you have any ideas, Stephanie? I would assume we could just bill them, but I just wanted you to be aware of what went into it and why we're doing what we're doing. It's, you know, $9 a ton more, but.
Well, I think that's great. And I think it's really great that you looked it up and figured it out. But they're going to have sticker shock when they see that. And a note should probably go with it. It's been an oversight that we weren't keeping up and just doing a small incremental raise, because this may blindside them a little bit.
And they, yeah, you're right, and they don't get a lot, so it won't be, I think in 2013, we sold 315 tons, so it isn't like we're losing thousands and thousands of dollars. It's just the idea that we felt it's kind of ridiculous to let it go out our gate for less than what we got into it, so.
I think the cost recovery is important, and we're not making money on it. We're just trying to sell it at our cost to them. But I think Commissioner Wyseth makes a good point. We need communication with them in advance if we can, and get everybody on the same page so that everyone understands before it happens why it's happening.
Sure.
Yeah, and I guess same way I would expect you may have communication with them and send the letter out saying if there's a problem with this because of your budgets, you know, I think we can, I mean, if they've already put their budget in place for the first few months of this year, which, you know, the weather depends upon how much they use anyway, so if it's a problem, I guess I would expect you to work with them a little bit. I wouldn't want them not to get it for the safety of the citizens because of, we had to charge more. So.
Okay. Then the second thing, a week or so ago, we had a final meeting on this gravel road study that Brookings participated in on Highway 16 out south of Volga. And the data is all in now, and they'll be compiling that into a report form. And so that'll be kind of interesting to see what they come up with on that. And they thanked our department for our help. We helped in the borings and putting the cast-off boxes and stuff like that in there. So it was kind of interesting, and yet was kind of a time commitment too. Last night, Chris attended the the DOT meeting that was held up here for the bypass project that they will be doing. He said it was probably more vocal than it would have needed to be, but I guess the positive side to that is that at least the people that were the naysayers were there and vocal. I don't know, nothing's etched in stone yet, which they tried to reassure some of the people of last night, but I think they brought some good points about having roundabouts at the interstate interchange. You know, there's a lot of truck traffic there, and you're gonna have to deal with that. And I'll be curious to see what they come up with, but the naysayers were definitely more vocal, and it was needed to be redirected once in a while to get back on the focus of what the actual topic was for the meeting. But I think it was overall a good point that they all got to voice their opinion, and maybe some didn't because the others were being so vocal, but that's the way it goes sometimes. But what they're planning on doing with the bypass is they'll put 2 roundabouts on each side of the interchange, and that will direct traffic in a much more manageable manner. They'll put turn lanes and widen the other parts of the existing bypass, and so it'll really get traffic flowing. One thing that the DOT mentioned was that Brookings has probably one of the best bypass situations anywhere, and that everybody does what they're supposed to do. And so it makes it that much easier to work. Now with the big projects coming up in the next year or two, these are gonna kind of cramp their style, and they're trying to find ways to improve the flow of traffic. So we'll see what they come up with as a final plan. But they're getting the public input now, and they should go back to the drawing board, and if there's any changes, I'm sure they'll have more input or from the public on that. So that's about all I have.
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
Did they offer any options other than roundabouts?
No. Basically, they tried to, I guess the way the meeting went, they tried to defend that was a good way of handling and dealing with the traffic. They did mention the cost of putting in like turn signals and doing an approach that would be a controlled type situation, but it was significantly higher price than the roundabouts would be. And so I think, if I understood Chris right, his thinking was that even though it isn't etched in stone, it looks like it would be the most favorable and economically feasible method of handling the traffic. And like I say, fortunately, there are a lot of truck drivers there, so they got their opinions heard, and I think they'll take that into consideration, definitely, all the truck traffic.
Did you gather from the meeting that this is probably a trend that's going to be not just unique to us, but the roundabout systems are going to be used in the future versus some of the traffic control lights and all of those things? And
I think that's the way you're going to see things evolve, because as our traffic numbers go up, it seems to be a manageable way to deal with the traffic. And also, I think each instance will have its own, you know, there's going to be places where they will work and where they won't. And I think as they get more popular, maybe it'll be more common than rare.
Okay.
So, but they're sure leaning that way, that's the way to go.
did they mention anything about the safety factor with the roundabout versus the signals and the way we are now?
Well, they touched on that, and again, it was kind of a weighted, one-sided conversation, according to Chris's testimony, that, you know, they only got a certain opinion of what would work and what wouldn't work. I guess my own bearing would be, I've never seen it where on an interchange that they would be advantageous as much as they make it out to be, where like if you're in a situation in an urban setting where you've got roads that probably aren't perpendicular to each other and there's branching going off, they're very efficient and safe. Hands down, they claim they're safer than the safest method of dealing with traffic. It's going to be kind of a learning curve, I think, as they're initiated in an area like Brookings where they haven't been used. And they work real fine when there's no cars there, but there's a lot of trucks and whatever. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
At the end of the day, the big thing is for us motorists is to learn how to use the roundabouts.
Correct. And according to the configuration they had, basically the ones that would be affected, if you were a truck that was coming south on Interstate 29 and you wanted to go eastbound on 14, you're going to have to make a right and follow around like a 270-degree turn to get going so that you can continue eastward. And the same goes for northbound if you wanted to be going west on 14. Those are the two drivers that will have the most kind of figuring out to do. The rest, it's going to be real simple and easy. The ones coming from the west going south on 29, it's just going to be a exaggerated curve, and away you go, and around you're going east, it'll be a slight, interruption, but it will move quickly. It'll be great, except for those two means of transportation. I know in the Twin Cities area where they don't go to a roundabout configuration, they make more of a clover leaf, and so like in busy intersections where the traffic is congested, they might have like exit 32A and B. A would be for anybody that's going to go eastbound, and B would be for anybody going to go westbound at the same interchange. They don't intermingle or cross traffic, but there again, you need a lot of room, and you'd need, I have confidence in these guys that they've thought it through, and they're certainly aware of nothing's perfect, but this would probably be a good way to go, or they're willing to try it.
Okay.
So I did see them Christmas time, and is it I-25 that goes through Cheyenne and all those? They have them in Wyoming, and one of the exits was middle of nowhere, other than the rest area, and they had them at every stop we had.
Yeah.
Okay. One other question, Dick, for the sake of time. We have a application under item F, under 9, for Sioux Valley. You're aware of that, and you don't have
Yes.
no issues with it?
No,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay. Any questions for Dick? Thanks, appreciate it very much. Marty, we'll just go down the line. We'll take Sheriff Stanwyck. Good morning.
I don't have a lot this morning. I just brief you a little bit on inmates. We have 16 in jail, so our population has been staying down. PBTs, we have 26 that come in twice a day, and I have 23 on scram at the present time. So, our jail population has been staying down, which is good. You listen to Sioux Falls where they're breaking at the seams, it seems like. So we're not experiencing that yet, but time will still tell and stuff. So we're still, waiting to see what'll happen down the road. But so far, it's been good. And at the next meeting, the jail administrator and myself will present the end of the year reports, and we'll kind of go over the jail statistics for the last 5 years and comparisons. One thing with our jail population, I had some excess money in the jail budget, which should reflect with our jail population. I think there was $20,000 left over in the food budget. Normally, that's not always the case. It's even with the increase of the cost every year for food, but we still was able to hold that down and stuff. So you can see some areas in my budget that we didn't spend money. One of the areas, though, medical is always, but I think I still was under budget on the medical, but medical is always an issue. I have an inmate right now that is on a lot of meds, and it's about $2,500 a month to keep. He lost his benefits since he's in jail, but he's waiting for. He will be sent to the penitentiary, but we're waiting for the report to come in before he goes down and stuff. So, but sometimes in some areas we save, and in other areas we have high maintenance inmates too. So, anyway, unless you have any questions, the cold weather. I think we're all tired of cold weather. It brings some challenges for us with patrol cars starting and other people's cars starting and stranded motorists. We've got to make sure. What's nice about cell phones is most people have cell phones, so they let us know if their car is stranded, so we don't have to look for them along the road. But we make sure that we check on stranded motorists and make sure they get to a warm place and so forth. So other than that, I don't have a lot.
Any questions for Marty? Marty, I need to understand that your working relationship with the university, and we, at the university ball game, one of your deputies was there as a part of the security force. And I want to compliment that deputy and your department. It was almost like having another greeter, the interaction that he had with the people as they come into the ball game, and it was great rapport, and it's a compliment to not only that deputy but your department.
Oh, good. That's nice to hear. Yeah, and Bob Hill and myself was on an interview board for they're created a new position up there that right now one of the vice presidents oversee the university police and the functions of parking and all that, and they're going to have an assistant director. I don't know what his official title was, and they should be doing a job offer here pretty soon. And I think with this new person, there'll be some better communications among all our agencies, and I think that's one thing that we need to do is just better communications amongst. We kind of tend to all be in our own little world and stuff, and why, especially when it comes to training, why should each department hold separate trainings? Just do things a lot together to try to save money and those types of things. So I'm anxious for this new position up there too. So
Good.
okay.
Okay, thanks. Vicki? Morning.
Morning. To give you a little update, we received our bank franchise tax this year, and it was up considerably, $197,000 for the whole county, and that is the highest it's been for many years. And we budgeted in our budget $54,500, and we're actually getting $79,557. So we're above budget there, and also the schools, for all the school districts, they're getting $137,000 more. So everybody should be happy on that. And for legislative updates, I think in your packet I gave to Stephanie was House Bill 1179 on refunds on motor vehicle licenses, and that's being heard today at 10 o'clock. So I'll give you an update when I hear on that. And hopefully that will not pass. It would be kind of a complete nightmare for bookkeeping and everything. And that was part of the reasoning for plate with owner, is now you didn't get a refund, but you could transfer what was left on that plate to your new plate. So hopefully that won't pass. Another bill we're looking at is House Bill 1069, and that's when we take tax deed to a property, or if someone else purchases it and are going to take tax deed, before they could add $200 for any closing costs, that would be attorneys, anything like that, they are raising that to $500. And that is something that we hope will pass. It's not a big increase, but it is something that it is costing the counties more than the $200 when we have, done all the publications and let people know. So that is being heard tomorrow morning. So I'll give you an update on that. Any other questions?
Comments? Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Vicki. Go down the line, Mr. Holzhauser from Welfare and Veteran Services.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The legislation as far as the Veterans Affairs side has been pretty quiet. I haven't heard a whole lot coming out as far as the welfare side either, so that's all seems to be going pretty well compared to the last 3 years anyway. We did file our claim in for the salary supplement, which reimburses a portion of my salary from the state. And the Reach All Veterans program is going strong. By the end of this month, we're supposed to have our sites picked for Brookings County. Currently, we're required to find 2 different places in 2 different areas, and we're kind of looking at Elkton and like in the Bruce area. And I think we're going to also work in conjunction with Kingsbury County to have one in Arlington, because quite a few of the Arlington people do come over to Brookings for a lot of their stuff, and they do stop into our office. So I guess we have the cemetery anyway, and not a lot of people come from there. But so that's kind of how it's going on the Veterans Affairs side. On the Human Services Welfare side, that we've been getting a larger number of people coming in since the winter disconnect goes from a 2-month late to a 3-month late, and that's kind of falling into us right now. So we've had some increased traffic for that. We've been able to find some other funding sources to help keep the claims number down, but a lot of people are coming in still. And we are trying to figure out how to do some work with Sioux Valley as far as a new system that they have and what the current state laws are. Is kind of putting us in a little bit of a bind, but I'll be talking with Vicki and some others to figure out possibly what can be done with that. So far, the 2 claims that we've had that dealt with that, we were able to find outside sourcing to keep that going. But one of the issues is with the low-income energy assistance program, and they get a disconnect on their electric side of it. We can get a one-time emergency infusion from them for electricity if that's not their primary source of heat. But the way Sioux Valley system is going, I don't know if that's an option, but that's something else that I'll be talking with Pierre on.
Okay, questions? Tom?
Yeah, the remote site that you're considering, Bruce and Elkton.
What's that?
The remote sites, or?
Yeah,
what goes on there? I mean, what makes that a?
When Secretary Zimmerman, State Department of Veterans Affairs, when he went to the governor with the idea for the proclamation that was signed that first day of legislation, which was RAV, Reach All Veterans, they want us to get away from the courthouse, get out into the communities, and have those veterans come in, and actually go more into their areas so that they can come in. And all it really is for them to come in and ask questions about their benefits, kind of have a little get-together, have a tent, tell them thank you for their service, and we're going to start keeping a log of how many different veterans we do contact, because his goal is to reach as many of the 75,000 veterans in South Dakota as we can.
You staff it, Mike? I mean, is it open just Monday and Elkton and Wednesday?
Well, no, it's what it is we'll go into the community. We're going to do probably about 2 weeks. The state will provide all the publicity, and they will provide the at least 1 or 2 individuals. And of course, they're asking every county veteran service officer in that county to partake in it again. So we're looking, they wanted to either do it after 5 or on the weekends so that the people can get out there. And it's an event, yes. So, anyway.
Any other questions, comments for Mike? Thanks, and it's always good to hear that you're working with our adjoining counties to provide that service to those veterans that deserve it. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Mr. Hill from Emergency Management, Community Development.
Good morning.
Good morning.
For those of you that don't appreciate our highway department, I got news for you. I was in Anniston, Alabama 2 weeks ago attending a Center for Domestic Preparedness class. I was supposed to go through a live gas chamber, whole 9 yards. They got 2 inches of snow and shut the whole region down for 48 hours. So I got a nice letter inviting me to come back after the weather clears up to re-attend the training. But It wasn't a total waste. We did attend like crime scene investigation and a couple other trainings, so it wasn't a total waste of time. But everyone from north, you know, Tennessee and farther north, we just laughed at all them guys down there in Alabama and Georgia. They would literally stop on the interstate, turn the car off, and walk home. Whoever heard of such a thing? And over the weekend, I was in Chicago. They got the same amount of snow, and every road you saw, there was 3 plows going down the road, just getting it off the road. So down south, they just don't know how to handle snow. So you need to appreciate your highway department that we've gotten. All right, we did have a zoning meeting last week, and we started the final process of the comprehensive plan, and the meeting went well, and some things came out of the meeting, and we're readjusting and moving on, and we want to try to get as much of it done as we can by the end of March, because when the crop season starts, it's going to be hard to get the farmers back in. But we got it lined up in the budget, and we're going to have some meetings outside the regular zoning meeting time. We did determine that we cannot just do it on the zoning meeting nights. So we're going to have to schedule some additional meetings, and our budget should be able to handle that. The new building inspector's on board and working well. We've had a couple of communications drill. One big thing coming up Thursday, and this is more for Chairman Larson. Thursday at noon over at the hospital, there's a PPCC/pod meeting. And at that meeting, we're going to determine just exactly who does PPCC fall under, because it's not a county board. It doesn't fall under my jurisdiction. And they want to work it out. Does it fall under the hospital board? It needs to fall under somebody for it to keep functioning as it is and everything. So that's going to be an important determination, I think, on Thursday. I did attend the Region 6 meeting with the Office of Emergency Management, and probably in March, next month, we'll probably have a tabletop exercise over at the Emergency Operations Center, EOC. There is a statewide EOC exercise coming up later in July, August timeframe, and we'll have to be ready for it. So we'll have our tabletop. They'll give us the canned tabletop per se, and I'll have to do some additions to it. And we'll be attending the township meetings in March. We're going to talk about the comprehensive plan, and also I do a little bit of talking on emergency management. We received a Homeland Security grant for the sheriff's and the police department's new records keeping system. We'll get those payments out. There is a new Homeland Security grant opened up all of a sudden that I'm going to send out to the people eligible. It doesn't give us any amounts that's available. It just says there's a limited amount of maintenance administration money left over, and you can make applications. So I'll contact the people we normally contact and see if anybody has. Basically, they're going to need a Canton project. This isn't something that you can start from the ground level. This has to be something already on the shelf, ready to move. And last but not least, August 26th to 28th, there's a Homeland Security Conference in Rapid City, South Dakota. Brookings County as a whole, we've got 6 slots to go to it, so you'll be hearing more about that as we come along. The only thing on that, why the county commission will get involved, is Homeland Security for the state of South Dakota has asked that they make one payment for the travel to one office. So it'd probably end up being my office. We'll make the claim, and then we'll have to sub it out to the people that actually attended and pay them that way. And I'll work with the finance office to figure out how all that gets done long before time. Any questions? Thank you.
We have no other departments here, so Stacy, the finance officer's report.
The report for December was included in your packets. Just the regular be it noted items are listed there. The fund balance report changes now. It changed in December with your designations that you did on December 31st. And then I believe it'll change again for January as we roll the fund balance from what was left at the end of 13 into 14. Otherwise, that report pretty much stays the same unless you designate funds throughout the year. And the surplus analysis at the end of the year, we ended at 28.23%. I think that's kind of what we were aiming for, I think, when we made those last year-end designations. That's where we ended.
I did
Anything
have
else?
the graph reported in my commission assistant report, if you had a chance to review that. That shows all the reporting timeframes as well as the monthly totals.
It looks like we projected pretty accurately where we were going to be.
We were pretty close.
Okay. Thank you, Stacy. As we go on to our regular scheduled agenda items, item number 9A is action to appoint a member to the Brookings County Housing Board. We do have application for that position, and at this time, for purpose of discussion, the chair would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, and the motion is to approve Angie Schmitz, if I'm pronouncing it correctly? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, is there any questions or discussion from board members regarding the application? Yes?
I would just like to note that it was pointed out to me that on the application, it said any available board position. When we received her application, she's a former Leadership Brookings graduate. I did contact her personally and explain the board position that we had open because we had no one apply for that position. She did visit with Nyla at the Housing Board about what the responsibilities would be, and she said she was interested in serving. So she is aware of which board she was going to be appointed.
Okay. No further questions or comments from board members? If not, please call the roll.
Krogman?
Aye.
Miller? Falcon?
Aye.
Wyseth?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number B is action to appoint a member to the Brookings Hospital Board, and we have 2 applications. Board members have reviewed the applications in your packet. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion for an appointment to that board, or that position.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move that we appoint Jim Morgan to the hospital board.
Okay, Jim Morgan's been nominated. Is there a second to that?
Second.
And we have more than one application. Are there any other further nominations out of the applicant pool? Hearing none, are there any comments from any board members?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I know both of these citizens here, and I appreciate that we have more than one choice, because we have boards that we don't get any choices, and, like our last appointment, she wanted to serve, and that was awesome. That's great, especially from there. So I like to see that we have good options, and I would say both individuals here are very good options. I've served with Dan on the BDC board for quite a few years, and has a lot to bring to a board, and is always there attending and does a great job. And I've known Jim through Daktronics quite a bit, and his experience stands on its own there and stuff like that too. And so I think we have 2 great options here. I would be happy with both. Certainly not gonna, say no to Jim because of Dan, but I think they're very good, and I appreciate both of their willingness to serve on these boards, because it does take time. I sit on the hospital board as ex officio, and they can be long meetings, but certainly there's a lot at stake in our health system in Brookings to be on that board. So I think it's great to see I have 2 of them here, and I wouldn't have any problem with either one of the 2.
Thank you, Ryan. Very good comments.
Yeah, and I would just echo those comments because, I know that during my little interim city manager position, Dan did serve in the hospital board at one appointment. He's been on that board and very knowledgeable, and I, 2 excellent applicants here, and I think that, we just have to make that decision. I guess I support our motion, but again, either applicant certainly would be able to fill the position.
The chair's observation would be the same as the board members that have spoke before. I mean, it speaks for the talent pool that we have in this community. And it's excellent to have qualified individuals with sincere interests applying for these positions. So, since the board's wishes at this point have been described, is there any further comments? Hearing none, please call the roll on the application.
Miller?
Aye.
Falcon?
Aye.
Wyseth?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number C is the action to appoint 2 members to the Brookings County Extension Board, and in light of the information provided in the last couple days, we're down to 2 applicants, and we have 2 positions. So Mr. DePraise is on the list, along with Ms. Pickard, and so the board would entertain a motion regarding those appointments.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it is moved by Commissioner Miller to appoint Andy DePraise and Ms. Pickard to the Extension Board, second by Commissioner Wyseth. Is there any further discussion or comments from any board members? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Falcon?
Aye.
Wyseth?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next one is item number D, and that is an action to approve our Resolution 1409 regarding the use of vote centers, and we have a good staff report regarding that and a lot of information. It is an action item, so for discussion purposes, the chair would entertain a motion to approve Resolution 1409.
So
Moved by Commissioner Wyseth, second by Commissioner Falcon. I've seen you reaching for the...
Second.
Okay. Okay, discussion. And Stacy, if for the moment, I defer to you. Do you have any comments?
No, this officially puts into action our, I guess, the consensus of the board earlier was to move forward with vote centers for the primary and for the general election. It is created in such a way that it is only good for 2014 in case we take a look at it and decide that this didn't go the way we wanted it to. We want to go back to precincts. That way, we have that option. This doesn't set us in stone for years and years, and then we can do another similar resolution for future elections. Like I said, Deputy State's Attorney Abigail Howard looked at this with me and helped draw this resolution up. It's similar to something that Brown County has passed. They're moving in this direction. I also heard from the finance officer in Hughes County, Pierre, and it sounds like they're going to be using vote centers as well, so, for 2014. And Yankton County, they've been doing it for a while now, so.
Okay, comments from board members?
I think the last election that Stacy and the staff worked, everything went great, and so I'm with you.
Yeah, the city and school are going to be using vote centers in April, if there is a city and/or a school election then. And we will be using just the 3 locations here in town, the Activity Center, Bethel Baptist, and Swiftel. And if there's a school board election, they'll also have a vote center open over in Aurora. So it will be a little bit of a change from November where we kept the same precinct locations. So it'll get down just to those 3 locations here in town, which will be the same 3 that we will use in June and November. I'm working very closely with Sherry Thornes, the city, and Brian Luters, the school district, to make sure that we're all doing the same thing so we don't confuse people as we move forward with the change. But otherwise, yeah, that's going to be the big difference from what we did in November.
Okay.
Thank you for your work on this.
Yeah.
How many do we used to have?
We used to have 15 countywide, so we've eliminated 5 sites, and they've all are within the Brookings city limits, are the ones that we had 8 precincts in the city of Brookings. So we
Yeah, I don't know
whittled
if
that
I
down
can
to
go 3 more blocks to another center.
You also have 6 weeks to vote absentee if you so choose right here in this
I'll
building,
practice
Tom.
the drive.
I can only say that for the benefit of those in our viewing audience as well, all of the citizens' comment that I've had in regards to vote centers has been positive. just makes it easier to vote. So, no further discussion, please call the roll.
Wyseth?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Falcon?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number E is the action to award the bid amount of $446,000 to Daniels Residential Incorporated for the new Highway Department Vehicle Storage Facility. At this point, I would call Dick to, well, you've got a microphone where you're at, you can make any comments, but before we enter the discussion portion, Dick, do you have any staff background that needs to come before the discussion?
Not really, but what, I invited Doug Wessels, who is the engineer with Banner. If there are any specific questions that I can't answer, he could probably help us out. But I think it's pretty straightforward, and there is one option in there to take a deduct if we did the work for the ground site. But after we've compiled our figures, I guess I would make the recommendation that we don't participate and just take the base price of $446,900 for the project.
Okay, that's our staff report. We'll bring it to the table, and at this point, the chair would entertain a motion for discussion purposes on the vehicle storage building bid.
Mr. Chair, I have a question before I make a motion. Do we have to make an action on allowing that one company out of the bid, or is that automatic by state, that one document in state law here or whatever?
Yeah, if you would want us to exercise our right to do that, you would have to make that separate
So maybe
as option A, or
for,
that's what you're asking, aren't you? Is if-
to get the one construction company.
From
Summit.
the Summit contracting letter to withdraw, do you have to take action on that, Dick?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we allow Summit to withdraw its bid.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Krogman. Any discussion on that? And we have the letter of withdrawal in our packet.
So he was the low bid, but he made a mistake
Yes.
and then sent us a letter stating he'd like to withdraw his bid because he did not have everything he needed in there. So
Correct.
So it wouldn't necessarily be the lowest bid.
That's correct.
Okay.
Just before this question, what did they forget? The general conditions being, just got an overview of what that really, I mean, that's a large amount.
Yeah, please come to the microphone and give us your name.
I don't have a problem, with the motion out of the bid, but I just curiosity as to what, they apologize for forgetting it, but.
Yeah, Doug Wessel with Banner Associates. Typically, their general conditions would include their cost for their insurance, their bonds, their excise tax, and some other stuff that they may choose to put in there.
Okay. Does everybody understand?
Thank you.
And I think they're acting appropriately
Yes, they are.
with the withdrawal. Okay. Any further comments? And please call the roll.
Krogman?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Falcon?
Aye.
Wyseth?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, now we'll act on the motion to accept the bid of Daniels Residential Incorporated in the amount of $446,900 for the vehicle storage structure at the Highway Department. Chair would entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion and then also not do bid alternate A, just do the base bid.
The motion
Not
is to
do
do the base bid and not alternate A.
Not the alternate.
Second.
Okay, second. Discussion? Hearing none, everyone ready to vote? Please call the roll.
Miller?
Aye.
Falcon?
Aye.
Wyseth?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number F, which is rather routine, and Highway Superintendent Burke has already addressed it, and that's our Agreement 1410, which is an application made by Sioux Valley Electric, or Sioux Valley Energy, to occupy 196th Street, and that information is, an application is in our packet as well. Chair would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Krogman,
Second.
second by Miller. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Falcon.
Aye.
Wyseth.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number G is our action to approve Resolution 14-8, which is our Bridge Reinspection Program resolution for use with the South Dakota Department of Transportation retainer contracts. And I think we've had a lot of good information on that in the packet as well. At this point, Chair would entertain a motion for discussion.
So moved.
Second?
Second by Wyseth, moved by Mr. Falcon, and second by Commissioner Wyseth. Dick, do you have any comment on this? I think it's pretty well explained.
Pretty straightforward.
Discussion? Board members? Not, please call the roll.
Wyseth.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Falcon.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number H is our authorization to apply for the Workwell Grant through the state of South Dakota. We have the information in our packet. Is there any staff background that they'd like to present before we bring it to the table for discussion?
I can answer any questions that the board may have, but this is a grant through the state of South Dakota. It doesn't obligate us to do any of the activities listed if the grant is not received. The intention is to incorporate and encourage some more healthy and activities and lifestyle changes amongst employees through the grant program.
Okay. For discussion purpose, Chair would entertain a motion for authorization.
Move to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner Krogman. Any discussion, Commissioners? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Krogman.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Falcon.
Aye.
Wyseth.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, action number I is to approve Agreement 1411, an MOU between Brookings County and South Dakota State University Extension. We have a copy of the MOU in our packet. We also have on our desk a copy of the MOU, or the agreement that we approved last year. And probably the background information that I could give was the fact that the agreement that we had last year was just basically more specific, and it explained the duties of what each party was going to do, and it also included the dollar amounts so that it didn't appear to be kind of an open-ended contract. So at this point, for background information before we move forward, I would ask any input or discussion from the commissioners. We basically have kind of two documents. We have an MOU presented to us and the one that we used last year. And it would be the board's wishes which document they want to move forward with. If there's any discussion.
I'm really cheap, so I usually like to look at the price before I buy an item.
Well, yeah, and the agreement that we had last year spelled out what we were spending. So, and if you wish to make a motion to renew the contract with any appropriate amendments, which would be beginning date, ending date, and in our budgeted, we have budgeted for that position in regards to the 4-H advisor position. Is that what you're saying, Tom?
I'm not sure what I'm saying. I think there's a couple of ways to do it. You send it, well, it's already past the signing date. This is deja vu. And,
But we didn't get it until the end of
I
January.
know. So, I mean, we can send it back and say, hey, we'll put a price in there and we'll take a good look at the one they just sent. Or, you know, it doesn't become an agreement until
We have a
they mirror each other, and right now, so we can change the dates on 1301 and send that back, and then they'll send back something else, and either way, it's a delay.
Well, I don't think we'd be delaying anything, we're just a little bit more explicit, and we've budgeted for the dollar amount, so we know what the dollar amount is.
What amount are you looking for in this year's, that was in last year's?
It's this year's that's missing something. Is that what
Okay.
you said?
Yeah.
We just want to make
Okay.
sure the annual payment to the university for the 4-H advisor is in concert with what we've budgeted, and I think it is.
And I guess the question probably is this trying to be a standardized agreement with everybody so they don't put amounts in each particular one so they got different agreements? Or why would they not, they know the amount, just like we know our amount, why wouldn't it be in there?
You'd think
Yeah,
it'd be-
Staff, Stephanie?
I can report that last year they did the same thing. Every county received the same MOU. There were a few counties, including Brookings County, that made changes to our MOU and sent it back to SDSU. So I believe that what you're seeing in front of you today is the standard MOU that they sent out to all counties. To start with, if you make changes, or if you recommend changes, I can insert those changes in, send them back to SDSU, and bring it back at the next meeting if you'd like.
I guess I would suggest that first paragraph under Brookings County in the 1301 agreement where it says Brookings County agrees to pay extension a certain amount of money as salary support. We know what that amount is. Add that particular paragraph to it, and I can't believe they would have an issue with it because that's what they know we're paying anyway. And just, I think it's clear for us then that that's the amount that's
Right now, page 2, and I'm sure they're honest and forthright people, but page 2, top paragraph, last sentence, salary will be determined by SDSU extension with approval of South Dakota State University, South Dakota Board of Regents. It's a pretty open-ended.
right. If we don't put an amount in.
Yeah, if we don't
Yes,
put an
yeah.
amount in, right now, they said it. And they aren't saying what they said it. Usually I go into something, I want to know what I'm paying for.
Yeah, and that's where we've got clarification by putting in the amount of dollars that we're going to support, at what level of support, and so.
I don't have a problem with the particular form, but I'd want to send an addendum with that, with sign-offs, that we would sign off until they sign off on a price, or just get back to them and say, whoa, we want an addendum, have them put the burden on them. We want to see what the price is. Either way.
Yeah, I think
It's
either
gonna
way,
take
whichever they
I
want to
think
do. I mean,
It's going to take another meeting either way, because they would have to send something back, we'd have to agree, whatever, either way. So it's going to take another meeting.
I think we can approve it today if you wanted, board members, you do as you wish. But if we just put in our current number, the dollar amount that we've budgeted, and I think everybody understands that, everybody's reviewed the budget and they're aware of that dollar amount, we can use the document that we used last year with just making sure that the dates are correct and the dollar amount is what we budgeted.
Is
And
there
we're
any
not-
other, this is laid out in a different way, is there anything else that's, well, they said the same thing in the old one, the same line was there, but is the document basically the same?
I can report another difference that I know was discussed last year quite a bit. In the 2013 document, you guys specified that we agreed to furnish a part-time, 20 hours a week maximum staff person because in their document, it says that we agree to provide sufficient. And so I know the board made that addendum last year, or that additional change last year to the MOU.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm not so concerned about that because we have the budget, we have what we have budgeted for that amount of hours, and they couldn't force us to.
No, it's our employee.
It's our employees, so I mean, I don't have a problem with that part being in there as much as, I think Don is correct, what we could do is insert that paragraph that has the amount in it we approve it today, send it back to them. If they approve it, it's a done deal. If they don't, rather than have them look at it, send it back to us.
Do you guys want the whole paragraph or just the first sentence then? Because the paragraph has the 20-hour thing that I just referred to.
If we're gonna change it, we might as well put the whole paragraph in, if we're gonna adjust the 20 hours, if you ask me.
Well, our last year, the paragraph that we have, our last year's document speaks to the 20 hours, and it also speaks to the dollar amount that we're sending. So the 20 hours wouldn't change. Really, the only change we'd have would be any difference in the dollar amount that we're forwarding.
I think in lieu of our meeting last night, though, if something would happen where we felt that wouldn't be a 20-hour position, I mean, it doesn't, what difference does it make to them? They're not funding it. They're not.
I'm just clarifying because you guys are asking me to insert the paragraph, but not the,
Yeah, and in the future would be in the 15 budget, not the 14 budget, and we've got the 14 budget established.
Well, you know, some of this about personal vehicle is in paragraph 2 of the old one and paragraph 1 of the new one. I guess right now I lean towards, unless you can talk me out of it, which I'm not that dug in, but putting the salary in the first sentence. And then the Brookings agrees to furnish the office suitable and blah, blah. We just start out like we did in that first line, you know, we say what the salary is. And go with their new one, but we're gonna add a line. And we'll send it back, and then they'll have to approve it and you know, agree to that change to their document, their contract. Now, I guess that's the simplest. I don't have a problem with the rest of it. Once we get the salary price in there.
Where in the new one does it talk about the part-time?
the only thing it says in the new one, you mean in the 2014 proposed?
Yeah.
Okay. In that first paragraph, it just says the county commission further agreed to provide sufficient funds for qualified office administrative support, for each advisor travel expense, office supplies. That's where it's noted in the SDSU version of the MOU for this year.
It's under personnel and financial.
Yeah, that just seems vague to me.
Vague, Brian?
I believe that's why you guys I believe that's why the commission last year clarified it further and put our paragraphs, or the paragraphs that are in the 2013 MOU.
Because, who decides sufficient? Sufficient funds for qualified official, who decides what's sufficient and what's not?
Mhm.
Does SDSU turn around and say,
We do, it's our employee.
it's a part-time employee, but it just says provide sufficient, so it's ours, so we get to decide 20 hours? Or if they want longer, we have to decide that, or SDSU can't come to us and say, you need to provide another employee or another part-time?
I guess I understand what you're saying, Ryan. I mean, it's, if their employee can't get their job done because they feel they need more than a half-time person, they could say, that's not sufficient, you need to make this three-quarter, and then we're in a kind of a deadlock of should we or shouldn't we, because that's our employee, but it's through extension. So I don't have a problem, I guess I understand that too, is that if we put that 20 hours in there, we did it last year for a reason. I think it'd be efficient. I don't think it's gonna be a big deal breaker. I just think it clears it up for us, and we know what we're doing this year, and if it changes, then we can make our changes.
Be clear with you, Dennis, so you put the salary in the new one and also put the 20 hours in the new one?
That paragraph.
So it'd be that whole paragraph.
Well, the paragraphs are slightly different. In the replace, you're gonna add two. See, in paragraph 1 refers to some of the stuff that's in paragraph 2 of the old one. That's the only thing. Correct?
Mhm.
See, the one that we had with them last year, because we don't have a quote-unquote extension program like we used to, but we've got the 4-H and youth development program, and that's what we speak to under our purpose.
I guess I would say we keep the one that they just sent us, but we add the salary and we add and where it gets about the agrees to provide, we agree to furnish a part-time 20-hour employee, maximum staff person to assist, provide in office space. Where's that in the new one?
We don't have a motion, do we?
No.
I guess I would.
I think our old one addresses everything that Tom's trying to figure out, if we just get our dates and our figures right.
That's where I would entertain the motion that we take the paragraph that we used last year that included the salary support and the 20 hours for the staff assistant person and put that in the new contract that's been, or MOU that's been provided to us, and approve that. That would be my motion.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that works, because then that'll
Second?
put that all, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
moved
I'm sorry,
by
right, I got ahead of the
Falcon, second by Krogman.
Yeah.
Further discussion? Yes.
Are we adding or replacing that first paragraph?
Adding.
Adding.
Adding paragraph right after Brookings County, right?
So just for everyone who's listening here or watching, to make sure everyone's on the same page, it's taking this paragraph right here under Brookings County, starting with Brookings County Board of Commissioners agrees to pay SDSU Cooperative Extension at $18,912 as salary support, ending at the part-time assistant, and inserting that into the end or into this first paragraph?
Well,
Personnel
The
and
second
financial
paragraph.
responsibility paragraph.
the second paragraph says the Board of County Commissioners agrees to pay annually South Dakota for partial salary support. So that probably needs to be replaced with our dollar value. So my.
Okay, that's
my
not what you
answer-
guys
I
originally
know,
told
I know.
me.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure if we can just get rid of this whole one and just replace it, because is there something in here that we need to, I guess what I would like to see is the 18,912 and the 20 per hours inserted into that paragraph, and keeping anything in there that needs to be, like, for example, must be made the first day of March. Okay, if that's okay, the calendar year, 100% Brookings County, that stuff can all stay. Should the position become vacant, calendar year, that's fine. You can put that stuff in there. But I think we have to replace that first sentence with the majority of this paragraph here.
I guess, could I just suggest that we have the motion of what we want added in there, those items in that paragraph, which would be the amount and the 20 hours for a staff person. That between you and Abby, I mean, this is a legal document, it's a resolution that she looks and makes sure there isn't a conflict in any other parts of this resolution that would be in conflict with what we just inserted in it for what we wanted. And if there is, it can be taken out or removed. I mean, we know what we want in, or just, if there's conflicts in the resolution, that could be worked out with the legal part. I don't see it being a lot, but there could be some wording that just kind of overlaps each other.
Comfortable with that, Stephanie?
Yep, that
Yeah.
will work. The one thing I will point out is their March 1st deadline will not happen. In order for us to have it to claims, I would have had to have the signed agreement back from them by next Monday, and we just got this agreement from them, so, which was last year too, so we won't be, and I can notify them, but I mean, when we just got it, I don't think that should be a problem.
No.
But-
Okay.
Another question.
Yes.
You know, in light of our discussions last night, quite a bit came up with more staffing. If that, we have a program director that's partially SDSU, partially us, but it's an SDSU employee. We're providing a part-time employee through us. If they wanted, or felt need that there was another, some more help that needed to be done, could that board then hire on out of their funds? That's what my question
They
was.
currently already have budget for their SDSU extension, or 4-H advisor, for their part-time secretary. They have work-study money, and they also have money for interns in their budget already.
Okay.
Last year, they hired 3 interns, I believe, in a work-study.
Okay, so if they were, say,
If it's
next
within-
year, they wanted to keep them, but also hire another part-time person, Would that have to come through us?
Well, two things, I guess that's kind of a two-thing question. Like when they hire their intern and their work study, they're doing it through SDSU, so it doesn't come through the county because it's not a county employee.
Okay.
But they also have to have the budget authority to do so, which they did for this year. Next year, if they make a request, and they did that to you this year, 2014, the request was for a full-time office staff. If the extension board wanted to make the request in 2015 to move that position to full-time, they would make that same request, but yes, it would have to come through the county if the county is paying for the position. If it's going to be a county employee on county benefits, they would first have to have the funding approved, then they would have to have the position approved and added to our payroll authorization resolution, and it would have to be hired through the county process if it's a county employee like all other county employees.
So all full-time either have to go through SDSU or the county?
If it's full-time county employee, we're paying their wages, it has to come through the county.
I guess I'm just, when you said they, you meant the extension board or you meant SDSU? They, because
If the extension board requested of another part-time employee, could they, as the extension board, hire somebody out of their budget to do that?
if there's money in the budget.
Right,
But we
if there-
don't
I understand
have-
that.
Yeah, but I
They're
mean-
not gonna do it if there isn't, but I mean, if they have money in the budget, next year, they put their budget together that's going to include another part-time person, does that part-time person have to come through us?
Yes, if we're paying the wages, the way that we're paying the extension bills right now, where everything's coming through the county, it's a county employee and it would have to come through us. If they were separate entity like other non-mandated, they could do whatever they wanted with the funds. They could hire however they want, but because of the way that the checks are cut, that the county is cutting it, it's a county employee, it has to be on our payroll resolution, it has to follow our wages, our policies, everything else. South Dakota retirement rules, everything.
That was my question.
But I think that if SDSU does not feel that their employee, which is, we pay half the salary of, needs more help than half 20 hours a week, they could come to the extension board, they could come to us and say, we support their, the extension board's request, just like they came in this year with two budgets, one for half-time, one for full-time. We support because our employee needs more help, then we make that decision and move on from there. But I think putting it in here, they know it's right now it's 20 hours a week, and that's what their employee support's going to be.
Okay, I think we have a motion on the floor to adopt the MOU as amended. Is that correct?
I was going to take the requested amendments and have Abby review them and bring the agreement back for next week.
Okay,
Correct?
but we do have a motion on the floor. Oh, the motion is amended to read, okay.
The motion was to take the paragraph that dealt with the 20 hours and the salary and add that to their agreement but have it reviewed by legal. It's definitely,
Okay.
it just doesn't conflict with any other parts of it. That's,
Just so everybody understands what the motion is. Okay? No further discussion, we call a roll, please.
Miller,
Aye.
Falcon,
all right?
Wyseth,
Aye.
Krogman,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye?
motion carries.
Okay. Next item on our agenda is our commission assistant report.
I do have just a couple items to go over with you. First of all, we do have the date set again for the open house at the courthouse for the remodeling project that's been completed. That date is February 27th. It's just going to be a come-and-go kind of open house, so we'll have the courtrooms available for people to come and view, and it'll be from 5 till 7 o'clock. You did receive a retirement open house invitation today that I put on your desk for each of you. And I also included in your packet the highway project costs. We had some discussion at the last meeting about the income and the expenses tied to each of those two projects, so I just put together a spreadsheet for everyone to review. In your packet, I also included the arbitration decision that Abby was referring to at the last meeting, and your surplus analysis, I believe also in here Yep, you have your agenda for the spring workshop as well. So I do have those reservations done. I don't believe I have anything else to report right now, but there might have been something I missed. If you guys have anything, just let me know.
Okay, and I would remind everybody to communicate with Stephanie's office regarding the spring workshop, so she can get that organized as soon as she can.
Yep, I think I heard from everybody now.
Okay.
So,
Very good, excellent.
On the Sioux Valley one, this will be the first time I've been in the host city or county. What do we do?
typically, we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting. As I said, typically this meeting is a legislative review, so we'll invite the legislators in. We tend to wait to kind of see what happens during the session to see if there's some big issue that we need discussed. At the last meeting, the board told me that if there is any major changes with equalization, that we should have Joyce present. I did talk to Joyce about that. She said she could come in if any of those land changes go into effect. We will be meeting here. We're going to serve our lunch in this room. I confirmed that with Jeff, that was fine that we were in here too. And we're going to probably, usually those meetings start at noon. We're going to have it at 11:30 so we can do some tours of the building prior to the meeting starting too, because we know there's some officials and commissioners that wanted to walk through the building ahead of time too. So we'll probably know better, and maybe by the end of this month, I don't know. We'll see how it comes through.
Well, it's good to host it when the legislative is on, because that takes care of your agenda. After going up to Watertown, I didn't want to make sure we entertained them properly with a good program, but the legislators will take care of that.
But if there is a specific issue that the commission wants to have presented at that meeting, at least on the board's agenda or the commissioner's agenda, there's always time. So if there's something that you guys specifically want to have scheduled for that presentation, I can certainly do that. You just need to let me know.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Not, we'll go on to the commissioner's report, and I'll just start at the other end, and Tom, I'll let you go first.
Okay, well, I wasn't anywhere that you guys weren't, except for the planning and zoning meeting that Bob referred to, and it did take a lot longer than we anticipated. We never got to the 35. I told you, if you're interested in 35-acre rule, you better show up. We never got to it. So, and our meeting would normally be the 4th of March, but due to the fact that's when the state law for township boards to meet, we have a lot of township board people on our plans. We're going to meet the same day as the township meeting that night on March 6th. And so if you want to come and see how that comprehensive plan is going, we're going to tweak it up a little bit, how we're presenting it, not the information. That information is the information, but how it's presented, and see if we can move it a little along, and hopefully we'll get to the 35-acre part, which is generating some interest anyway. That's it.
Okay, Mr. Krogman.
Yes, I was at the 4-H Summit last night, which was well attended, which was good, and a lot of good discussion, which was nice. Otherwise, most of my meetings and stuff were handled last time on about a 2-day period in the middle of the month, and so I'll report on one community meeting with a lot of stuff, and the other one I won't. So right now, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Miller.
On the 28th of January, I went to the county's holiday social. On January 30th, I attended a meeting at Banner Ray Costs of Asphalt versus Concrete. It was an informative meeting. On February 7th, I attended the conference call with Cheeseman Foundation regarding the summit, and last night we had a long summit that was very well attended, and I sincerely hope that some of our issues can be resolved.
Oh, Commissioner Falcon, I know you've been busy because you've been on the phone a lot, and you've been...
On the 6th, I had a conference call with the 911 coordinating committee I serve on, and I'm on the GIS RFP project, and we're having a 2-day meeting and 2.5-day meeting in Pierre the first week in April to sit down and look at the proposal that we received to set up a statewide GIS system. So it's moving forward, and then again, I had the call with Cheeseman on setting up for the summit that I attended yesterday, or last night, so, that's it.
Okay. Any questions for Commissioner Falcon? Myself, I attended the housing meeting, and it's been a while since I served on that board, and so I got a whole new set of acronyms that I got to learn. But of course, everything is tied to, or a lot with federal housing, and there's certainly a need for housing in the community. We're well aware of that. Then later that day, I attended the Swiftel board meeting. They got a lot of activities. They're real aggressive in what they're trying to do, and of course, they were getting all set up and prepared for a big wrestling tournament that was coming forward. And it was interesting to see the wrestling volunteers out there and all the kids that were participating in the tournament helping put down all the mats and tape them together. And it was just like a beehive down on the arena floor, getting everything set up for the tournament. And of course, from what I'm hearing, the concert was a huge success, so that's good. And they've got a lot of other things that they're working on in the future, so it'll be some exciting events out there. The Venue Works is doing a good job, and all of our ratings and all of our surveys that come back from events are very positive, which is good. Then I attended the work session the other day with Cheeseman Foundation, getting prepared for the 4-H Summit. And then, of course, last night was the 4-H Summit, and we all pretty well know and have discussed how that worked. So, and that was it at this point. Yes, Commissioner?
I guess just a question in reference last night. I guess our next step is probably to get the report and to try to analyze that. And, you know, I do think that there was one thing that we don't have to wait for that's pretty obviously going to be in the report is communication between the council and 4-H and whoever that is. I mean, whether it's the leaders or whether it's the board or whatever it is, I think that is something that I would like to see us, you know, start sooner than later, is that getting at least monthly, if not every meeting, but probably that's too much, monthly, a report from what's going on and what, you know, maybe through Sonia, through her group, and, you know, whether it be clubs reporting to her and she reporting to us. But I do think it's hard to communicate it if it's, you don't make that contact. And I guess I don't think we need to wait until the report comes back, because that's pretty obvious. Almost every table had communication between the council and the 4-H. Whoever, I don't know what they meant by that, whether it was a 4-H advisor, whether 4-H, you know, board or extension board, that'll probably be hashed out, but I would just assume we start some dialogue just in communication as soon as we can.
I have no problem with beginning communications, but just understand, if we can understand their organizational structure, so we know who's, you know, if they're speaking on behalf of the total, or if it's a portion of the program, that makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, and I think
so that can be a part of that dialogue.
And I think too is that, you know, this board sits down at the first of the year and it puts appointments and liaisons to committees and puts people on boards. And Stephanie is our extension liaison, you know, board member, that we need to probably funnel more stuff, you know, say, hey, you find out or you do this, because sometimes we go to different people and get different answers. And I think, you know, whether that's good or bad, but, you know, it's confusion about what is the flow chart, and who's the person to go to get that information. I think that's what we need to figure out. But if we can work through our appointment and just go from there.
Yeah, liaison can do a lot for us. Yes, Stephanie?
Commissioner Larson, perhaps you would, or the board would like to extend an invitation to Sonia to start attending the meetings again. That always happened previously with the agent. We had an agent either here at the meeting that reported monthly or submitted a written report. I know we haven't got those in probably 3 or 4 years, but maybe that would help as well. We used to get those as part of the packet, and they would come and report during department head meetings as well. It might be an idea.
It might be a means of communicating, and obviously, they've got work to do, and I don't want to require that she be here for every meeting, because that's counterproductive for her or any staff member. But if there's something of importance, certainly they're welcome and to appear before us and visit with us about it. Written reports are good, you know. But I don't like to, you know, require, because that becomes counterproductive for them.
No, I meant invite, just like you invite
Yeah.
your department
Okay.
heads.
Sure.
And that was my question. I think, you know, somebody on behalf of 4-H, and Sonia seems to be the one that, you know, is leading that as a programmer and that kind of stuff, once a month, once a quarter, could come and give an update of what they're going on, or I mean, we get emails of the different, you know, programs that are going on. But, you know, an update of what the extension board is working on, you know, and different things like that, and where they're at going towards stuff. Another thing too is strategic planning came up there. Do they want to go? Where does 4-H want to go? And the extension board and whoever is running 4-H, where do they want to go? And I think they should be invited to our strategic planning too, because they get together and say, this is what we'd like to see 4-H go to. And then us as a board can plan for that, saying if we want a new facility, this is what we're looking at, or this is what we're envisioning. We can plan for that then. We can be involved in that with them. And then everybody's kind of on the same page, hopefully, through a long-term process. You know, I don't need to know how their programs are run or who's running them. You know, that's not my thing. But I want to know, you know, what they're doing, how they're doing with their budget and the funding and stuff, the responsibility they have to report to us. And so I think, you know, they talked about strategic planning. I think that would be a good thing for that group. I would like to incorporate them into us, to our strategic planning, so we can plan for that. If we need to participate in a new facility or something, at least we know it's coming down the road. And it's not just here, because our budget is years, you know, a year for sure, but major expenditures are long-term. And so I'd like to see some of that from there. And again, you know, I guess Sonia seems to be the person that could come and give us an update of how things are going and where they're at, whether she's speaking on behalf of the programming or speaking on behalf of the extension board. I don't know. And that's my question. I don't know who she's speaking on behalf of. So.
Well, and I guess that, I think maybe Stephanie can go back to the extension board and say, look, how do we want to communicate with the commission? Is it with the president of the board and Sonia? Do we want to go have Sonia bring this forward? I mean, they can make that decision. I don't care who comes. I just,
That's fine with me, too.
yeah,
I don't
that's
care who
from,
comes either.
I'm with.
Somebody come in would be, you know, because we kind of say we're not communicating and backing up and stuff. And so we can start that. Let's get communicating here. Let's get somebody here. Let's discuss it and see how things are going.
Okay, Tom? you have a
Well,
comment?
I just, you know, just looking up, I kept and looked at the monthly 4-H newsletter. I mean, there is a report that's sent to us in our
But I think
email, and I read it, and I kind of get a feel for what's going on, and I actually had a couple questions along the way, and actually have called and asked about them. But, you know, we already get a report. I don't know how many reports she has to kick out.
maybe you could include that in the commissioner's packet, though, then it would be noted in your correspondence received in the minutes, so that the general public is aware that you guys are receiving that information, because when you're receiving it individually, it's never officially on the record, and the general public who's only getting their information from reading the minutes might not be aware that you guys are getting that information.
You bring up a good point, because, you know, I read their monthly reports that they send to us, so that, you know, they are corresponding with us, but they're corresponding with us individually, and it's not a matter of record, and you bring up a good point.
Yeah, because the general public wouldn't know that we are
Yeah.
getting the newsletter
Yeah.
from 4-H.
But I think there's more than the newsletter of what's happened. I mean, I would like to have someone come here and say, okay, every quarter, say, here's our financial, we're we're sitting at this, and this is what we spent our money on, and we're moving ahead with this program, and we're gonna have to do this, and we're gonna do that into the next quarter. Just something to kind of get it out to the public when they're telling us about it, because this is a place that they could also get the exposure. It's more than just saying, well, we got registrations for this is next month, and this program is the next month. I mean, yeah, that's great to know what their clubs are doing, but just more of what are they doing with their money, and how can we help them, or what else do they need if there's something that they see that we can be aware of into the future. That's kind of what I'm looking at.
And I certainly don't disagree with you, Commissioner Falcon. Maybe what you're looking for is more of a results-oriented report.
Well, just an update on that, of how that's going. That may not
Sure.
be in that monthly report that goes out for programming and different stuff like that. It's part of the communication process of where they're at and how things are going. And if there's a request that comes up because they need something and things aren't going well, at least we're getting it on record from the person we need to get it from. Okay, not just hearing from somebody else or hearing from one side saying, well, we need this, we need this, we need this, and we're like, we don't know that, and so that's where I think the communication has to, there needs to be a flow chart here. There needs to be somebody asking something there, so the communication that's speaking for a certain part of the organization. And right now, I'm not sure where it goes. It goes like this, we hear from all different directions, and nothing is focused on down through the chart. At our board thing, we had a couple people that were, I respect very much for their work, and that was one of the big things that they came up and said, who's calling the shots here? Who's supposed to be coming and speaking? Who's supposed to be communicating? And I couldn't answer the question because we hadn't defined it. And their comment to me was, you need to figure that out first before you can fix all this other stuff too, because the communication will improve and all that kind of stuff. And that was just something that came out, and that was one of our first discussions, and it seemed like it rang through the whole thing. We have to figure out how this flow chart's working. And so,
Yeah, and people at my table and we were a very small table. There was a couple there, and they had the same question. Just what you said. How do you get your information? What's the flow chart? What's the organizational structure? And so how does the information flow? But it's very important. Commissioner Miller.
I think the extension board I think we need to set the flow chart. But I think the extension board could speak. However, they're still unsure of what their duties are. And we said back some time ago that we were going to give them written instructions as to what we felt their duties were, and we have not done that. And I'd like to reiterate that we need to do that.
Yeah, that came up last night with talked to two extension board members, and either they forgot but they didn't have the bylaws that you guys came up with in October of last year. I gave them my one copy I had, October, December, or whatever it was. And in the bylaws, it says what they're supposed to do. I mean, there are parameters, but not specific jobs. But he wasn't even aware that there was a set of bylaws.
Well, that'd be one thing, we could give Stephanie another job, but she could make sure that each board member gets a copy of the bylaws, you need yours back too? Okay.
Well, I didn't bring this up to dig into the results of what's going to come out. I wanted to start in the communication. I think we're kind of getting in deeper into this whole thing of who's responsible for this. I just want to open that communication lines now and then get the report, analyze it. It's going to be easier for us to sit down, and maybe if we have to give direction to the extension board of what their duties are and what we want them to do, it's going to come from this report from what everybody else gave us the information to. So,
and then they do have some other statutory guidelines that they operate under as well. So it's kind of several different directions for them too. Yes, Stephanie.
A couple of you had mentioned the strategic planning and maybe incorporating extension into that, or 4-H, sorry. Just a reminder that we have that date set for March 25th, and the intention right now, or what the board had discussed previously, was perhaps the consultants would be meeting with department heads during the regular commission meeting. You guys would adjourn for lunch, come back, start in the afternoon, and just go till we're finished. If that's something that you guys want to think about until the next meeting, and if it's something that you're interested in, we can try and coordinate maybe Sonia and the Extension Board and the commissioners to have some kind of part of that planning session during that time frame. Or we could incorporate Sonia also individually as part of the departments that will be meeting with the consultants while the board is meeting, and then bring in the Extension Board, you know, to meet with the commission in the afternoon into evening session. But the reason why I bring it up is timing. If it's something that you're going to want to do, I would assume that we would need to probably have that decision made at the next meeting.
I just think they need to be there. I'm not
Yeah.
sure how the best way it is, but I think they definitely need to be there. And hopefully prior to that, the Extension Board and Sonia are going to meet and come up with some vision for what they would like to see done, whether it's, you know, that type of stuff that would help us do some planning down the road. And that'd be my goal, to have them involved, because, you know, there's potential here for, you know, from hearing what we said, facilities and stuff is the big question, and so we're gonna have to plan for that. And I think it'd be, if we didn't, so.
Okay?
And I
It-
had an Extension Board member come to me and say, you know, how often would you like us to come and give a report? Weekly, monthly? So they're
Okay.
willing.
Good, good. Any other comments?
And I don't know, I mean, we're gonna get this results, we're gonna make it available. Would it make sense for us as a commission to meet with that Extension Board and go over that and and discuss from there where we go here? And sit down with them and answer their questions. You know, sometimes it's difficult when an Extension Board member goes to one of us and says, will you do this for us? And there's 4 people that have to vote on it. It's not an easy question to answer, because you just don't know. You can't say, you're not speaking for the whole commission. But when we all get together potentially, and with this Extension Board, and they can have discussions, and we can give them, you know, visions or opinions of what we all have there, but at least everybody's in the same room and have that discussion. So I don't know if it's be worthwhile to do that or not, and I don't know when, you know, because
Maybe like a
timing.
work session following when the report is given during the board meeting?
I think a work
I
session.
mean, that afternoon, so that you
Yeah.
can do it
A
in a
work
little more
session would be
casual
good.
setting.
Because then you're not, there's no time constraint or anything. You can sit down and roundtable discussion and go over the results and visit with them and get their ideas and, you know, communicate.
idea, Ryan.
That's the
I'll second
important part.
And definitely, you know, Sonia needs to be there also, you know,
Yeah.
she needs to be involved in that, and everything like that, so.
Okay, anything else? There being no further business for the good of the order, I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you, one and all.